A lot of good, a lot of bad from the NFL for Week 10. Things starting to spiral out of control in the Windy City. Bears often scoring just 3 points in their loss to the Patriots, their third straight defeat. Now find themselves slipping further and further out of the playoff picture in year one with Caleb Williams. Here's what head coach Matt Eberflus had to say about the Bears' recent struggles.
Well, we're 4-5. Haven't played our division yet, and we're in the process of starting that this week, in a big football game. So again, just in the process of getting that done, there will be changes, adjustments being made. Again, I'm not going to disclose those right now. I'm not at that point in the process. Monday's a long day, in terms of the evaluation of everything. In terms of lineups, in terms of the coaching, in terms of how we need to do better. In that coaching and how we need to do better in the communication in game. During the game, after the game, prior to the game. So it's important that we take time to make those decisions and make the right decisions. That's for the Bears. Best for the Bears going forward for this week and then going into the future.
Well, the Bears not the only team mulling some changes on offense. Giants coming off a heartbreaking overtime loss to the Panthers in Germany. Their fifth straight loss as they dropped to 2-8 on the season. Daniel Jones with several big turnovers in the loss. Giants will now enter their bye week. Here's what Brian Daboll had to say about who QB1 will be moving forward.
We're going to spend a lot of time here watching our tape and evaluating things, and we'll do that as a coaching staff over the next, week here.
That's a little bit different, Brian, than the yes that you give us to that question when we ask it every week. So I think, to be clear, everybody's going to assume that means yes, you're at least considering a change. Is that fair?
Well, I would say we're evaluating, our team at the bye week is what we're doing.
Meanwhile, the Colts with no doubts on who will be QB1 in Week 11. Shane Steichen sticking with Joe Flacco over Anthony Richardson. So despite another disappointing offensive performance against the Bills, Indy currently sitting at 4-6, still just a game back of the final playoff spot in the AFC. Here's what Steichen had to say about continuing to ride with the veteran signal caller.
Joe's a veteran guy, like I've said. He's had 2 games that he'd want back. But again, he goes out there, throws some good passes. Obviously, the interceptions, there's, 3 of those. There's 2 that he'd want back. Again, you just stick with it. You grind through the process of this whole thing, man. It really is a process. So we're going through that process right now, and right now, Joe's still our guy.
And we are now joined by CBS Sports NFL analyst John Breech as I welcome you to join me on this roller coaster I like to call the Chicago Bears. Because after a 3-game winning streak between weeks 4 and 6, it's been tough sledding since boasting 3 straight losses, with the offense failing to score more than 15 points in all 3 of those losses. So for what it's worth, they're still in the thick of the playoff picture at 4-5 on the season, but it could be tough sledding if we just consider what their division looks like. But what adjustments in your mind need to be had if there is any opportunity for Chicago to get their season back on track?
Well, you kind of have to look at what this offense has been doing. Is this just going to be rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic if you go and fire your offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, who didn't get exactly a vote of confidence from the head coach? So it's really, when you're looking at what the Bears could do right, well, just go back to earlier in the season. They looked a lot better. Week 6, we saw Caleb Williams throw 4 touchdown passes. Week 5, we saw him throw for over 300 yards. And yes, the opponents were slightly easier because it was Jacksonville and Carolina, but the offense was functioning, and that was just a month ago. And now, since coming out of this bye, as you just mentioned, Kiana, they have not scored more than 15 points. They have not scored a touchdown in 22 straight drives. That is almost unheard of for an NFL team. So I just think they need to get back what they were doing earlier in the season. If you looked at the Patriots game, it was just a confluence of everything going wrong. Caleb Williams, his reads weren't there. He was slow to get his passes off. He was inaccurate. So it wasn't necessarily bad play calling there. It was just Caleb Williams had trouble connecting with his receivers. The offensive line offered no protection. He got sacked 9 times. So I think it's just a matter of, you have to start doing the little things right, kind of take baby steps, and then go from there. So the Bears have a lot in front of them. They have not been able to develop quarterbacks. I mean, ask Justin Fields, ask Mitchell Trubisky. So they are definitely at a crossroads here. But by no means do I think that they're necessarily in trouble. Just go back to square one, start over, work your way forward.
I think that can be said for several aspects of life. Just go back to step one and work your way back from there. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news because I'm going to continue to focus on the negative in the time being is Daniel Jones and the New York Giants with just 2 wins on the season. And they might be desperate for a change. Head coach Brian Daboll wouldn't commit to Jones on the back end of their bye week. What's the Giants' next best option the rest of the way?
Well, I think it's crazy when you look at the Giants, because when you look at Brian Daboll's first year with the team 2 seasons ago, him and Daniel Jones went to the playoffs together. And when you look back at it now, that might have been the worst possible thing that could have happened, because it just set sky-high expectations for what they might be able to accomplish together. Well, it has been all downhill since then. There hasn't been a lot of good. And I think one of the issues is that Jones just hasn't gotten better. He's been in the NFL for 6 seasons. You want to see your quarterback get better when he's in the league that long, and it just hasn't happened. He almost seems to be regressing. So at some point, you kind of just have to pull the plug, and I think the Giants are in the perfect spot to do that right now. They're coming home from that loss in Germany where Daniel Jones threw 2 back-breaking interceptions. You lose to a Panthers team that has been struggling to win any games. Now you go to a bye week, an easy time to make a quarterback change. And let's not forget, you have that contract kind of hanging over your head where Daniel Jones has that $23 million injury guarantee. So if he keeps starting and he gets injured, now you're stuck with him in 2025. So I don't think it would be too crazy if the Giants decide to make a QB change this week.
Yeah, maybe not the same situation as Chicago. No going back to step one here in this situation, especially when you talk about that injury guarantee at the back end of things. But meanwhile, the Colts, much more certain on who their quarterback will be moving forward. Joe Flacco will once again be under center for week 11 as Anthony Richardson continues to sit. But John, is this the right move in your mind, or does AR-15 deserve another shot for their playoff push?
I would not want to be Shane Steichen, Kiana, because I'm not sure what the right move here. This one is more of a conundrum, because when you're saying, hey, look, we're putting Joe Flacco out there because he gives us the best chance to win, and your best chance to win turns the ball over 4 times. That's not a good sign for anyone, but that's kind of what you get with Joe Flacco. One week he might go out and throw for 400 yards. The next week he might go out and throw 4 interceptions. So that is just, you know what you're going to get. Sometimes you're going to win these big games, and sometimes you're going to lose them because he's going to give them away. And so I think that if you look at Indianapolis' schedule, they have a week 14 bye, which is a little bit down the road, but obviously you're committed to Joe Flacco for now. I think you just ride Flacco out until the bye. If you're still in the playoff race, let him play. If you're not necessarily in it, you give the ball to Anthony Richardson, because you really have to get him back on the field to figure out if he's your quarterback of the future, because you know Joe Flacco isn't. So I think that Richardson does need to be back on the field at some point, and maybe it happens after that week 14 bye if they're not in the playoff race anymore.
All right, a lot depending on potentially how their season goes over the course of the next few weeks, but fortunately for the Colts, their week 11 opponent might be in even worse shape than they are. The Jets coming off an embarrassing 31-6 loss to the Cardinals. No play more embarrassing than Trey McBride shaking off Sauce Gardner before hurdling another Jets defender. But Sauce, though, clapping back with a now deleted tweet saying, quote, "Yeah, I'm 100% sure me missing that tackle at the beginning of the second quarter for a gain of 17 yards was the costliest miss, and that is in fact what lost us the game," end quote. Well, not the only Jets defender chiming in. Linebacker Quincy Williams taking to Instagram to inform the fans, quote, "Y'all better remember this football. You know what? It's just my job. Find y'all someone else to play with before you get found." Some choice words there from the Jets defense. But Breech, things just going off the rails for the Green Gang, and in a hurry. Just where did things go wrong, and is there any way in some form or fashion they can salvage this season?
And this doesn't feel salvageable. When you are fully imploding when your players are attacking fans and the media on social media. That just means the ship is going down and there's no saving it. Maybe there's one lifeboat, but Aaron Rodgers is getting on that one and he's not letting anyone else on. And so when you look about what the Jets have done wrong. It's really just been, I mean, it's the offense has been bad, the defense has been bad, but it really feels like they have no identity on offense. And a lot of that has to do with Aaron Rodgers just hasn't been as good as I think everyone thought he was going to be. And so when you design your offense to completely run around what Aaron Rodgers does well, and he's no longer doing those things well, then that becomes an issue. So you have Garrett Wilson, you have Devontae Adams, but neither of those have really been a help. Maybe this is a team that needs to get back to running the ball more. Now, I don't want to be the guy that has to go tell Aaron Rodgers that we need you to be a game manager going forward if we're going to win games, but that does kind of feel like what it has to do to get the offense going again, just get everybody comfortable. The defense has issues, so this really is a team. Maybe they beat the Colts on Sunday, get that 4th win, and let's not forget, the Broncos are 5-5 in that final wild card spot, so it's not like the Jets are completely out of it. You look at their schedule, it's kind of friendly with the Colts, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, and the Jags in their next 4 games, all winnable, but they got to not implode. So stop talking trash to fans on Twitter is what I would start off with, Kiana.
Like you said, a friendly schedule, and you did mention they're not completely out of that picture, so they still do have an opportunity to potentially turn things around. But I think a lot of that starts with 1, quarterback play and maybe not blaming everybody, and 2, keeping those defenders off of Twitter. All right, John Breech, appreciate you stopping by. Thanks so much. CBS has a monster slate of games on tap for Week 11, and we'll have you covered for all of them with post-game highlights, recaps, on-field interviews, and so much more right here on CBS Sports HQ. Watch live on the CBS Sports app, or hey, stream us on Paramount Plus.